Welcome back to YellowCard Vanguard. I'm your host, Toku, from It's Toku TV on Twitch. It has been a long while, and Clan Collection 5 and 6 have already been out for quite some time, but I figured this is going to be a mainstay of the channel, so I've taken some time out of my failing job search to give you, the viewers, what you want. My based, red-pilled, and Giga takes on the new cards and supports for Clan Collections 5 and 6. Once again, we need to preface the video as well as the rest of the series by letting you know that these lists are made at face value using my skills of card evaluation. They will need playtesting to fine-tune, but I hope they will serve as a good reference point for filthy net deckers to piggyback off of. Welcome back to Clan Collection Cores. Normally with Clan Collection, clans will get 3 new cards and 3 reprints for support. But if you are a Glendios simp, news is good for you because not only does Link Joker get 4 new cards, they also get all of the reverse units to play with. Glendios brings a new playstyle to Link Joker, and it is quite truly a stall and control game plan. Introducing the end of the world Star Vader Omega Glendios. As your Vanguard, all of your reverse units become based 18k power on both turns. And at the beginning of your main phase, if you have 5 or more cards in your damage zone and your opponent has 5 or more locked cards, end the world, win the game. Once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1 and bind a reverse unit from drop that hasn't been bound before, and your opponent cannot unflip, period. So Omega Lock. Then, once per turn, when you place a reverse unit, you can choose one of your opponent's rear guard and lock it. Honestly, a very simple boss unit that does a lot in itself. But it really does rely on your drive checks and draws. Its weak point is the fact that at 4th damage, it is just watching its neck and praying your opponent chooses to hit you to 5. Basically, no guarding at 4 and praying your opponent doesn't crit to get the world end. Its strength is the fact that he can grind the game to a standstill until all of the reverse units are out of contention. But until then, you look to have your opponent only attack you once per turn as you threaten them with Glendios base 2 crit thanks to Zirconium. The next new card is Grade 2, Star Vader Magnet Hollow. When placed on either the Vanguard or the Rearguard circle, if you have a Star Vader Vanguard, which you should, you can search your deck for up to 1 reverse card and add it to hand for the cost of 1 counterblast. And during your turn, a Magna Hollow gains 5k for each unique reverse unit in your bind zone. Simple enough. If you're playing Glendios, this becomes a Counterblast 1, search for your lock and Omega Lock engine. The power is kind of irrelevant, but the engine to continually get reverses into your hand and in rotation is helpful. Then we have the third new Link Joker card in Tabu Star Vader Rubidium. When placed on the Vanguard circle, check top 7 for a reverse unit and add it to hand. Then a continuous skill. If your Vanguard is a Glendios, all of your reverse units gain intercept and the original shield becomes 10k. I have very mixed feelings about this. I really like the second effect that Rubidium has, allowing us to play the reverse unit, get the lock, intercept with it, and get it into the drop zone to climb up with Glendios. However, its plussing ability is only on the Vanguard circle, so you only have 1 chance to do so. Not to mention, there are better grade ones to have on the board, namely Cravenclaw. Jury is still out on whether or not Rubidium makes the final cut. And then the fourth new card for Link Joker, Star Vader Worldline Dragon. When placed on the Vanguard or the Rearguard circle, you can Soul Blast 1 and discard a reverse to tutor 2 Star Vaders from top 7 of your deck, period. Now this is good. Yes, it does conflict with Soul that we want to have for Omega locking turn after turn, but the trade-off is thinning your deck by 2, tutoring 4 Star Vaders, and getting a reverse into the drop zone to start off the cycling. With the new cards introduced, we can start getting into the core and discuss our choices, but before that, I want to talk about my disappointment that despite being Star Vaders in name, they are so centralized into going into the Glendios game plan that Chaos didn't get any extra love that I think it needed. Regardless, here's the core, let's talk about the cards. So we'll work backwards, starting with the triggers this time around. We'll go with 8 crit, 4 draw sentinels, and 4 Helions. I chose Helions here over Vanillas, as though we do have a win con linked towards being at high damage, it is a slow time to reach it, so I felt that having the opportunities to reach that point was important, so we ran the Helions. As you can see, because we're forced into running all of these reverse units, our average shield value is very low, especially in the early game before Rubidium comes online. So being able to use Helions to buffer our early game into our late game should hopefully help us, especially as we start choking our opponent out of attacks where less and less shields end up being required over our turns. We choose to run draw sentinels over crit sentinels, as eventually there comes a time where the only attack to deal with will be the Vanguard swing, and against certain decks, they'll know this and they'll just slam all the force markers onto the Vanguard circle, and at a certain point, you definitely need a PG to get through it. Into the grade 1 lineup, we're playing a full playset of the 3 best Starvaders related to Glendios, which would be Rubidium, Worldline Dragon, and Cravenclaw. Honestly, we should just call him Crutching Claw because of how much the deck crutches on its attacks hitting. We already know what Rubidium and Worldline do for our deck, so let's talk about Cravenclaw a bit more. Because of its obvious use case of being able to put on-hit pressure, but because of Soul being a potential limiting factor in being able to grind, its ability to go to Soul and swap locks can help decrease aggression but also fill up your Soul. As for other grade 1s to run, I like the idea of Pelagium. Although Pelagium as a ride is a -1 to Soul, one of the things it does to really help towards the game plan is to be able to couple it with Cravenclaw to rip another lock off the top of the deck, making your opponent lose options on where they can put rearguards, period, and force them into that single center column. But get closer to that 5 rearguards on board as well for the World and WinCon. Into the grade 2 lineup, we run 4 copies of Zirconium and 4 copies of Magnet Hollow. That's it. Zirconium makes use of our first counterblast to force something onto the board at least, which when coupled with its second effect, as we continue to keep rewriting Glendios and getting those force markers, makes our Vanguard swing very scary. Magnet Hollow being able to use other counterblasts we get throughout the game to get our reverse units into rotation. And then finally, our very large grade 3 lineup. Our big boss unit, he is my world and the ender of yours, Omega Glendios. Frankly speaking, even though we run the reverse units to get the locks and the Omega locks, I wouldn't consider World End our real WinCon. It's rather just choking your opponent out of the game. Regardless, we want to rewrite for forces and souls, so we run 4. As for our 1-ups, we're running 8 reverse units. To be completely honest, it doesn't matter which ones you run. You want to run the ones that come SVR, and your copies must be SVR as well for the intimidation factor. That is all. Now, we opted to run 1 Chaos Breaker Dragon because someone on stream bribed me to. I don't actually believe in it being just a 23k rearguard when we could just run another reverse unit, which would become a 10k shield with Rubidium. But, you know what, fuck it, 1 Chaos Breaker for the meme. And that's about it for the deck. Honestly, if you have the triggers and you bought yourself boxes of Clan Collection 6, congratulations, you have yourself a Glendios deck. As for some talks about what this deck does for Link Joker in the V Premium format, I think it speaks more to what this deck does for Cravenclaw in the V Premium format. It gives it more targets to hit, but in the end, this is just another Link Joker deck. Rather than CBD's ideology of stealing gifts and scaling off of those, Glendios looks to scale off the raw advantage of not having to guard 3+ attacks per turn. I do find it funny that certain decks in the meta do completely put Glendios into the slammer by raw accident, such as Astral Reverse and the Rebirth, but such is the consequences of designing a card like so. In any case, that is it from me for this episode of Clan Collection Cores. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this and leave a comment down below because every little bit helps the channel. This has been Toku from YellowCard Vanguard, and Toku out.